Hallo und willkommen zu Abschnitt 25. In this chapter, it is about the German negation. So in this chapter, you will learn how to use the negation in German. It's called die Negation. Okay, we have two words in order to negate things in German. We have the word kein in order to negate nouns, and we have nicht, which is the which we use to negate verbs. So this is basically nicht is basically the English don't, and this is like the English not. Okay, but we will have a closer look now. So here, in the first slide, the word kein, okay, we use it together with nouns. So in this chapter, you have a very detailed explanation of how to use the negation in German, and also how we structure the sentences and what the word order is, so where to put each negation. Okay. So here, with the kein, you have to form the sentence as follows: a normal main clause. Okay, you start with the subject, then comes the verb, then comes the negation kein, and then comes the object. So, for example, du hast keine Zeit means you don't have time. Du hast keine Zeit. Okay, so before I just said nicht, the other negation is like the English don't, but not in all cases. Well, it would be like you have not time, it would not work in English. Okay, so most of the time don't is the same as the German nicht, but not in all cases. Okay, because it's still, the negation is a little bit different from the English one. So du hast keine Zeit, you don't have time, or you have no time. So here the word kein, you have to adapt it to the gender of the noun that follows, and also to the grammatical case. Okay, we'll look at that in the next slide. Wir haben keine Ahnung, we have no clue. Wir haben keine Ahnung. So die Ahnung is female, so die Zeit is also female, so you have to say keine for that. Ich habe kein Ticket, I don't have a ticket, or I have no ticket. Okay. Ich habe kein Ticket. Ticket is neutral, it's das Ticket, so you say kein. Then here in this slide, now we have a look at the declination of kein. Deklination von kein. So the declination of the word kein is the same as the declination of the indefinite articles. The indefinite articles, just a reminder, is the same as in English. Like this is a tree. Now is an indefinite article, or the German eine, for example, as you hopefully remember, we learned that at the beginning of the course. Okay, so this is an indefinite article, and it's the declination of it. So how we change, or we adopt it, is the same as with kein. So here in this chart, you have the masculine, feminine, neutral, and plural form. Here you have the nominative case, the accusative case, and the dative case. So for masculine, you use kein in the nominative case, and the accusative keinen, and dative keinem. For feminine, here nominative keine, accusative also kein, it stays the same, but in the dative it's keiner. Then we have the neutral form, exactly the same as the masculine form in the nominative case, but here in the accusative case it still stays kein, and then in the dative it's keinem. The plural form in the nominative is keine, exactly as in the accusative, and in the dative is keinen. Okay, so for example, you can say, ich glaube keinem Kind. For example, I don't believe I believe no child, for example. Ich glaube keinem Kind. Although it's children very often say the truth, so it was just a basic sentence that came into my mind. Okay, so this is, of course, again, it depends on the verb that you use, or the preposition also, whether you use the word kein in the nominative, accusative, or dative case. Just for you to keep this in mind, okay? But just here, the overview, the declination is exactly the same as for the indefinite articles in German. Okay, so this is what we use in order to negate a noun. If you want to completely negate a noun, you use kein. Now, in the next part, we have the word nicht. Nicht is basically the same as the English don't. We use it in order to negate verbs. Okay, so here for a basic sentence structure of a main clause, you start with the subject as usual, then comes the verb, and then comes nicht. So, for example, ich gehe nicht ins Kino. I don't go to the movies. Here we have a noun, but we are not negating the movies. It's by them, like themselves. We don't say this is not a movie, or there are no movies, right? Or this is not a movie theater. Then we would say kein, because we negate completely the noun movies, or here Kino. But here, in this case, we are negating the verb. We are negating that we are going there, right? We are not negating the movies by themselves. So that's why we say, ich gehe nicht ins Kino. I don't go to the movies. Here, Jenny liest nicht means Jenny doesn't read. Okay, so here you don't have a noun anyway, so the only option you have is to use the negation nicht for the verb. Schreibt's nicht, he doesn't write. Okay, schreibt's nicht. So the word order here in the basic sentence, subject, verb, and then comes nicht. So the next one is in cases when we use nicht after an object. Okay, so here we have the word order subject, verb, object, and nicht. Ich kaufe diese Wohnung nicht. It means I'm not buying this apartment. Again, we are not negating the apartment by itself. We don't say this is not an apartment. We are negating the fact that we are buying it. So we are negating a verb. Ich kaufe diese Wohnung nicht. Now we have an object here, so nicht comes after the object. Ich habe das Buch nicht. I don't have the book. Again, we're not negating or neglecting the book by itself. We're just negating that we have it. Right? So ich habe das Buch nicht. Or here, ich mag dein Bett nicht. I don't like your bed. Okay, so we're not saying this is not a bed, which would be this is kein Bett, but we're negating the fact that we like it. We don't like it. Ich mag dein Bett nicht. Okay, so the next slide is if we have two verbs in a sentence. So here mit zwei Verben im Satz, with two verbs in a sentence. Let's have a look at how we structure this sentence. You start with the subject, then comes the finites verb, which is the conjugated verb, then comes the object. Then comes the negation nicht, and at the end comes the second verb. So very often, actually all of the times when we use two verbs is if we use for example, the past tense, the perfect tense, right? That you need a conjugated verb which would be haben or sein, and then you need the Partizip zwei. Or it could be that you use a modal verb, for example. Also the future tense, but future we will learn in the A2 level. But if you have, for example, a modal verb, then you have to conjugate the modal verb, and then the second verb stays in its infinitive form. And if you use that in a sentence in which you're negating something, it comes at the last position, the infinitive or the Partizip zwei, depending on what clause you're forming, whether it's the perfect tense, for example, or a sentence with modal verbs. Just a reminder, modal verbs are verbs like können, sollen, wollen, like the English can, want, and so on, right? So here, ich will dieses Gericht nicht bestellen. I don't want to order this meal. So here we have a modal verb. Ich will means I want, not to confuse. It does not mean I will. It's not about the future. It just means I want. Ich will dieses Gericht nicht bestellen. As you see, subject, then the conjugated verb, the object, the negation nicht, and then comes the second verb, which is in this case in the infinitive form. Bestellen. I don't want to order this meal. Ich habe das Tier nicht gesehen. I haven't seen the animal. So ich habe das Tier nicht gesehen. Exactly the same subject. Then comes the conjugated verb. Then comes the object, the negation nicht, and then gesehen. Here it's the perfect tense. Ich habe es nicht gesehen. I haven't seen the animal. You're not negating the animal completely. You don't say this is not an animal. You're just negating the fact that you have seen it. So again, you have to use nicht here. Then, ich kann diese Schrift nicht lesen. I can't read this handwriting. Okay, so here that's a modal verb, können to can. Ich kann, it's the conjugated form, and then the second verb stays in its infinitive form, and you have to put it at the end of the sentence. Ich kann diese Schrift nicht lesen. Again, you're not negating that it's a handwriting, so you don't use kein. If you wanted to say this is not a handwriting, it would be das ist keine Schrift. This is how we would say it then in German. But again, we're not negating the handwriting by itself. Okay, we're negating the verb or the fact that we can read it. Okay, so on the next slide, this is when we're negating adverbs. Verneinung eines Adverbs. Okay, so here the word order is subject, verb, then comes the negation nicht, and then comes the adverb. Du joggst nicht schnell. You don't jog fast. Okay, here we have the adverb, which is schnell. Du joggst nicht schnell. You don't jog fast. Then Jens spricht nicht deutlich. It means Jens doesn't speak clearly. Okay, the word order is always the same as you see. Katja arbeitet nicht ordentlich. Katja doesn't work properly. Okay, so this is the word order here. This is, as I said, this chapter is very detailed about the word order. It's actually also exceeding the A1 level, but I just wanted to make a complete chapter about the negation, so you know how to form the word order, because many people have, or many students struggle with the word order in general in the German language. Okay, so here it's like map, it's like you have a formula here and you just have to follow the rules, and then it would be great if you practice and write own sentences just to keep the structure in mind and just to learn the structure. Okay, so the next slide, this is when we negate adjectives, and here, as you see, you have to put use a subject first, then comes the conjugated verb, then comes the negation nicht, then comes the adjective, and then comes the last, at the last position comes either the infinitive or the Partizip 2. It's just as in one of the slides before, if you use, for example, a modal verb, or if you use the perfect tense. Okay, for example, du bist nicht langsam. Okay, it means you are not slow. In this case, it's just a simple present tense sentence. It means you are not slow. Okay, but if you wanted, for example, if you wanted to form a sentence in the perfect tense or using a modal verb, then again the infinitive or the Partizip 2 verb would be at the very end. Okay, otherwise, this is the sentence structure of a normal sentence. Bert ist nicht sauber, Bert is not clean. Okay, ist nicht sauber. So we're not negating Bert, we don't say this is not Bert, it wouldn't work. With names you cannot use kein, you cannot say das ist kein Bert. So it would mean this is not a Bert. Bert is a name of a person. Just by the way, if you're wondering what that means, that is just a name, a male name in German. Bert. Okay, so here Bert ist nicht sauber, we're negating the fact that he is clean, so we're negating a verb. Brigitte ist nicht faul, Brigitte is not lazy. Okay, sie ist nicht faul. Wir können nicht schnell laufen. Now we have an example as you see it here. Wir können nicht schnell laufen. We cannot run fast. So the subject, then comes here the conjugated verb, which is a modal verb. You have to conjugate it. Then comes the negation. Then comes the adjective. And at the last position comes the infinitive verb. Okay, or the infinitive form of the verb. So, the next slide, here we have negation of personal pronouns, Verneinung von Personalpronomen. Whenever we are negating personal pronouns, the subject, the structure is as follows. The subject comes first, the verb, the personal pronoun, and then nicht. Just something that I wanted to say. You learned in one of the chapters how to structure main clauses, and I hope you remember that it's possible to put an indication of time, indication of place at the beginning of a sentence, right? But now for the A1 level, it would be too complicated, because then the word order here would change if you put, for example, an indication of time or place at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, we just stuck to the most common sentence structure, which is just starting with the subject and then continuing with the verb, because this is how we structure sentences most of the time anyways in German. Okay, so here ich sehe dich nicht, it means I don't see you. So here ich is the subject because I'm the one who's seeing the active part. Then sehe, the verb conjugated. Here's the personal pronoun, ich sehe dich. It's in the accusative, right? Because sehen it's an accusative verb. So ich sehe dich nicht, I don't see you. The negation comes after the personal pronoun. Versteht sie nicht, he doesn't understand her. Versteht sie nicht. Verstehen is also an accusative verb, but the accusative personal pronoun is exactly the same as in the nominative case. He doesn't understand her. Okay, then we have the negation of names. If you want to negate a name of a person or also a name of an institution, for example. Also, it could be a name of a city, would be also possible, or a country even, because it all has a name. The sentence structure would be as follows. So, Subjekt, Verb, Name, und dann nicht. Okay, ich kenne Leon nicht, I don't know Leon. Ich kenne Leon nicht. As you see, subject, the verb, Leon, the name, and then comes the negation. Or hier, du kennst die Universität Köln nicht. You don't know the University of Cologne. Okay, du kennst die Universität Köln nicht. Now this is a name here, it's University of Cologne, so it comes before the negation nicht. Okay, so that was the chapter about the German negation and how to use it. I hope you could understand the difference between nicht und kein. Okay, keep in mind, you always have to exactly understand what the sentence says, whether you are negating a noun in general or whether you're negating a verb. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this lection und bis bald.